Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast on AI reshaping merchant payments. So very briefly about myself, Charlotte Alustar. I'm a principal at Flagship Advisory Partners. We are a consultancy boutique focused on payments and fintech. And so today I'm joined by the fantastic panelist Brice van der Wal from Mastercard. So I would perhaps, before asking you a first question, ask to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Charlotte. So indeed, Brice van der Wal. I lead what we call core product at Mastercard. This year is my 20th anniversary at the company, so part of the dinosaur team.
Perfect. And listen, I think, AI has been on everyone's mouth, obviously, for like many, many months now, many years. It's one of the hot topics, and I'm really excited to be discussing that today with you. So let me just open with a very broad question. So how do you see AI effectively disrupting merchant payments today?
That's a very broad question. I think it will create a fundamental shift on how consumers' behavior will evolve over time. We're going to see more and more, especially with the younger generation, the Gen Alpha, how they are completely comfortable to delegate the authority to agent to perform action and take actions on their behalf. Yeah. So we can expect that over time, AI and agent will become a real assistant for consumers to perform many, many actions in the future. We see a huge adoption. If you think about a year ago, most people hadn't used a bot, an agent to run queries. Now I think everybody's defaulting to AI agent, and nobody would go back to the old Google search box model anymore. And that's gonna just increase over time. And we think that will also then influence how people are shopping, right? They will today look for the best available options when they're looking for a special good, a specific good, but we will also enable the whole payment to happen through an agent. And that will become a big shift also on how merchants are interacting today with their consumers, right? Because there will be most likely an agent playing a more critical role in the whole flow that we know today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think agentic commerce is probably one of the second biggest topics together with AI, obviously, that also goes hand in hand. What would be the key takeaways that you would give a merchant as they think about their strategy as it comes to agentic commerce today?
Again, I think we can expect a big shift in consumer behaviors. People will always look for the simplest way to attain their objectives, right? Yeah. So if you can make their life easier and get to a good result, that's what people will go for. And that's why we believe that AI, agentic commerce will get a lot of traction, because that will make people's life easier, and they will therefore be very attracted to that. It's also allowing people to have a much more frictionless experience. You get a really good result instantaneously. So all these things are what people are looking for, and therefore there will be a big push from the consumer side to use a agent to perform purchases in the future. And so I think from a merchant perspective, to your question, what they need to make sure is that they understand that this consumer behaviors shift is happening, so that they can anticipate it, because a lot of the existing processes are not built for that kind of interaction, right? They're not built to interact with agent and the type of behaviors that consumers will have in the future or already today with agent. And so it is very important that merchants understand that this is happening, and so they need to start thinking, how can I interact in a smart way with the agent and be able to position myself as a merchant that agent will select by default in the future, right? Because once you'll have been positioning yourself as the best in-class merchant for a specific type of products or good, and the agent is happy with the value that you deliver, they'll just stick with you, right? Because the goal of the agent will be to make sure that you can as a consumer, get the best experience, not just from a pricing perspective, but everything that happened pre-purchase, during purchase, and after purchase. These are the things that will be looked at by the agent. And on that basis, they will provide a recommendation to the consumers. And so if as a merchant, you understand that, and you can really adjust your processes and your strategy, your operation, your marketing to cater for that new way of doing things, you'll be uniquely positioned and you'll gain shares ultimately.
And so what does it mean for like the enablers, right? So the PSPs, the fraud providers, the schemes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where I would love to get your perspective, because you're like many things, right? So how do you think, what does it mean for them, and how can you differentiate in that context?
Yeah. So in everything related to payments, we believe that scale and standard are key, right? Because people want to be able to transact anywhere, anytime in the world, and it also has to be safe all the time, right? And so having clear standards, clear specification, and clear rules of the games on how things needs to be happening has been tremendously helpful in the past to scale things like contactless, 3DS, EMV chip. These are the things that were really helpful. And for agent e-commerce, there's no difference, right? We will need standards, we need specification, we need interoperability. People will want to buy things from abroad, from merchants that are sitting outside of Europe, or consumers outside of Europe will want to buy goods from merchants sitting in Europe, and AI doesn't change that. And so what we've been doing is really providing those standards to the industry, also working with the large LLMs so that we are interoperable between the LLM standards and our payment standards. And from all the, let's say, the existing stakeholders' perspective, what they need to do is obviously look at those standards, understand how they work, and I would say jump on it, reach out if they have any question. But that would really be the beginning, from my perspective, on what they should be doing, is understanding the standard and see how they can integrate that into their existing, let's say, processes. I also see a big opportunity for acquirers, gateway, PSPs to help merchants, because a lot of merchants won't have maybe a dedicated agent already built into their environment, and it's not. We should not think that it's just going to be the big guys, the big LLM like OpenAI or Gemini that will be running all these agentic commerce transactions. You will have a LLM in Europe. You can name Mistral, but you can also think that large merchants will build their own. But what about all the smaller merchants, right? They will also be willing to continue to run their business. And if PSPs or gateways or acquirers can come up with a solution that looks and feel like an agent and can then support those smaller, medium-sized merchants, that is also an opportunity. So I think there's still a lot of room for players to find what the exact role they will want to play. But yeah, it's just... think first about how this is going to evolve from a behavior perspective, and then have a look at the specifications that are out there and look for opportunities on where you can add value.
And so when do you think is going to be the real breakthrough of agentic commerce? And so I know that like everyone...
So I'm going to take my crystal ball right now.
Yes, exactly. It's a $1 million question.
1 billion or maybe 100 billion. Yeah. So like in everything that touches payment, it takes a little bit of time to scale. Again, because we are, if you think about it, on Mastercard, at Mastercard, we have more than 3 billion cardholders. Yeah. We work with more than 25,000 financial institutions across the world, right? That are all connected to our network. So in order to shift and get this big boat to start changing a little bit direction, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of coordination. Still, in 1 year time, we were able to process the first agentic commerce transaction on our network, right? Leveraging agent pay tokens. And so it's already a reality, which in the world of payment, 1 year is like an hour in the day, right? It's like nothing. So being able to accomplish that in such a short period of time is already an incredible achievement. Now, in order to scale, we will need to get both issuing, community, acquiring, and merchant ready, as well as LLM ready. Yeah. Already in Europe, we have enabled 99% of issuers to be able to use agent pay tokens. So that was happening last month in February. So technically speaking, all issuers are ready, and we are engaging with all the LLMs at the global level. We are engaging now with the local, regional ones, and also with acquirers and PSPs. And so the sooner you will see, those actors on the merchant side, on the acceptance side, adopting it, the faster it will grow. I think now that it will take probably, I would say, 3 to 5 years before we get, and this is my crystal ball guess, but I think it will go faster than contactless. It will go much faster than 3DS for the simple reason that consumer demand for it. Right? In 1 year, you've seen everybody shifting from Google search to Gemini or to ChatGPT just because the value is enormous. Yeah. So you have a big push. That's very different. Before, we were pushing things like inside out, right? We were telling issuers, hey, issue a contactless card, or acquirers, deploy a contactless terminal. But you had to make this whole ecosystem connect. But here, the chicken and the egg issue is already solved for, right? All issuers are ready. All consumer wants it. So it's just a matter of, having a couple of merchants starting, and then it's going to be a snowball thing.
Yeah. When you think about AI more broadly, and looking back a couple of years, where do you see AI having already somewhat disrupted merchant payments? So what are kind of the use cases that you can think of?
So at Mastercard, we like to say that AI has been there forever. I mean, we've used AI to fight against fraud, to identify fraudulent pattern on the network. So, it was called differently, but essentially that was the same principle. Now, we see 3 types of use case to oversimplify. We see the simplest use case, which are single merchant, single product, with the cardholder being present. Present through the agent. So that's me trying to buy some new running shoes from my favorite sport store. And I'm just telling, hey, buy those. This is my foot size, and go ahead. So that's very straightforward, and right now we can already cater for that. A little bit more complex use case is when you start to have multiple merchants on the other side of the spectrum. Typical use case is like you would be doing today with a travel agent. You say, I want a trip to Paris. Please book me flight, hotel, taxi, restaurant, and a visit of the Eiffel Tower. That's a little bit more complex, but the agent can do that. You just need to manage in the background how you connect to the different merchant, how do you split the transaction between the different merchant, and how you capture the intent of the consumer properly, so that if anything happened afterwards, we can still trace what was the original intent from the consumer and manage the exception. But that's really something which we believe can be managed already today. What is a little bit more complicated is the third, let's say, use case where the consumer is no longer present. So you're delegating the authority to the agent to act on your behalf while you're not even there. Yeah. So in Europe, it raised a couple of questions around authentication, around consent. And so we're working to make sure that the framework will take into account those, let's say, more European specificities and the need for authentication, so that those more interesting or more fancy use cases are becoming possible, right? An example could be, please buy me those tickets for the Lady Gaga concert whenever they become available. And, you can sleep on both your ears and wait for the agent to do this for you. So that's the future.
Yeah, but you're right. I think it's so much driven by a shift in consumer behavior increasingly. So really excited to see what is down the line. Again, AI relies on data. And I think in Mastercard, you're also, again, uniquely positioned, as a company, as a scheme, etc. What's your perspective on that, the power of data within AI?
So first, an important point, right? So we are fully GDPR compliant. So we're very, very careful with data. We always have anonymized data. We don't share data when we don't need to share data, and we're very careful on how we use them. That's a very important principle. Also, in the context of agent e-commerce, we've realized that this was a very sensitive topic because merchants specifically are concerned that data around what has actually been sold to that particular individual start to be shared across the network, and that can create some resistance and worries when this is being shared without too much consideration. So this is why we have actually 2 weeks ago announced what we call the verifiable intent, which is all about how do you make sure that we identify properly the person that is using an agent to run the transaction. What are exactly the orders and the constraints that have been given to the agent to perform that transaction? And lastly, what are the actual action taken by the agent for that specific transaction? And as part of these set of data that we're collecting to around this verifiable intent, we are also making sure that only the necessary data will be shared with the relevant parties when it is required. So concretely, if there is no need, we will not share what are the SKUs data to the issuer, to the bank. That's not the objective. Now, if there is, for example, a chargeback or a claim from the customers that, these were not the sport shoes that I ordered, and because you gave me hiking shoes, we will be then able to disclose just for that purpose what is the actual original intent of the consumer, so that the chargeback process can be handled and managed properly between the issuers, the acquirers, and the merchants. So the point is, we will be very careful with the data so that everybody feels very comfortable that this is a fair environment to play with.
Makes sense. And then perhaps for the audience, one last key takeaway.
From my end. I'll just repeat myself. The consumers will evolve drastically. I think we are already evolving. The next generations are evolving even faster. Agent and defaulting to agent will be the standard. And so it's really critical for merchants and all the stakeholders to think about what it means for their business, and that they start adjusting their business, their operations, their organization, so that they're ready for this future, which has unlimited possibilities.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot, Brice. It was very insightful, and hope the audience enjoyed it. And I'm wishing everyone a very good conference.